Donald Trump painted a picture, a negative, dark, divisive picture of a country in decline.
She makes it sound like everything's rosy-dory. It's not rosy-dory, folks. People are pouring across the border. We have no idea who they are.
Trump and Clinton with two very different views of the state of our nation. And we're back now with the panel. Well, Carl, you know, this is the way it works. Obviously, the party that does not hold the White House is going to say things are going to hell in a handbasket. And the party that does hold the White House will say, well, things aren't great, but they're okay, and we're going to make them even better. Who's on firmer political ground at this point? Trump with the statement of pessimism, and or Clinton relative optimism, but we'll make things better?
Well, Trump has the better argument to make because, for example, 40% of the American people think we're in a recession. We're not, but that's what they think it is.
But they feel we are.
They feel we are. The problem is that neither one of them has an advantage on what will win the argument, which is, what is it that you're going to do? She's laid out something. It's not particularly palatable or popular. He has yet to lay out something other than mere platitudes. And even if he's laid out something like a tax plan, he rarely campaigns on it. I would say this, though. It's really remarkable that we have two presidential candidates, neither of whom has confidence in modern sound systems and feel obligated to scream at every single opportunity, whether it's in front of their respective conventions or at their campaign rallies.
Yes, I feel with both of them, I should say, this is a microphone. Trump is involved in a brand new controversy in the last couple of days. At the Democratic convention, the father of a young Muslim American who came to this country, enlisted in the Army and was killed tragically by an IED, a car bomb in Iraq in 2004. He called out Trump for his ban on Muslims, saying if it had been up to Trump, his son would never have been able to come to America. In the first case, Trump responded this week on the ABC show This Week. Let's take a look at both of them.
Have you even read the United States Constitution? I will gladly lend you my copy.
He doesn't know that. I saw him. He was, very emotional and probably looked like a nice guy to me. His wife, if you look at his wife, she was standing there. She had nothing to say. Maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say.
Juan, this story is blowing up.
Well, it blows up, Chris, because it's really speaking to something I think that was emphasized by the Clinton campaign at their convention, which is a sense of who we are, our values as American people. So Mr. Khan powerfully said that if you go to Arlington Cemetery, you can see there people who are of all races, all religions, all creeds, including Muslims. And then went on to add that Mr. Trump has sacrificed nothing. Mr. Trump, as you know, did not serve in the military, got several deferments from Vietnam. But then Mr. Trump responds, as we saw in that clip, by saying that Khzr Khan, the wife, who was there in a headdress, had nothing to say and may be restrained by her faith and told to have nothing to say. Mrs. Khan then came back and said that she has trouble speaking anytime the picture of her son, her dead son, is shown, and that she's overcome by grief. I think that people on either side of the aisle, conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, knowing what Mr. Trump has said about John McCain, a loser because he was a prisoner of war, is similarly affected by the idea that you would speak negatively about a Gold Star mother, a woman. I can't imagine losing one of my boys to something like that. That's unbelievable. But I'm not sure it's a game changer. We've been looking for game changers with Trump all along.
Well, let me pick up on that with you, George, because, Trump has made these kind of comments before, specifically, as Juan said, back last summer, a year ago, when he said that John McCain wasn't a war hero. It didn't hurt him particularly in the Republican primaries. Does it hurt him now that we're in the general election?
The straw that broke the camel's back did not break the camel's back. It was the cumulative weight, the critical mass of straws. And the question is, will there be a critical mass of these things? Just when you think American politics has hit rock bottom, Mr. Trump rises or stoops to the challenge of saying there is no rock bottom to American politics, and certainly attacking Gold Star parents is one of these things. His adherents have said from the first, from June in 2015 when he entered the race, he tells it like it is. It's never been clear to me what the antecedent of the pronoun it is. Today, the antecedent of the pronoun is flaws intimated about this Gold Star couple that we saw on there, and then begins a minuet that we're now familiar with. Journalists do their duty, and they call the office of Mitch McConnell, and they call the office of Paul Ryan and say, well, what do you think about this? And they say, well, we disagree with this too, but he still ought to be president of the United States. I really can hardly wait to hear what Mike Pence has to say about this when he's asked today or tomorrow, as surely he will be, what he thinks of these remarks. The good news is this. The point of campaigns is to give voters information on which to base their decision, and they're getting a lot of relevant information.
I want to try and, if we can, get through two other issues, and one of them, women. It was quite a moment Thursday night. I felt it. I'm sure you felt it, Julie, for the first time in our history to see a woman out on that stage, accepting the cheers of the crowd and becoming the first major party nominee for president. And in case anybody missed the point, Hillary Clinton made it for him. Here she is.
Standing here as my mother's daughter and my daughter's mother, I'm so happy this day has come. I'm happy for grandmothers and little girls and everyone in between.
Julie, how big an advantage does the Clinton camp think that is, this sense? And we saw it with Barack Obama, whether you necessarily agree with him or not, the chance to make history, the chance to break down another barrier.
Well, it's interesting with Hillary Clinton because I think in part because we have lived with her for so long in the public eye that you sometimes forget that actually this is a huge milestone for American politics, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. And you've seen them slowly through the course of this campaign embrace that, culminating in this convention where it was such a headline of this convention. I think that for Clinton, anything that she can grasp onto that creates more enthusiasm among the Democratic base is to her advantage. That is one of her weaknesses, enthusiasm among Democratic voters. If you talk to Democratic women, if you talk to some of these independent and Republican women, particularly older women, mothers who live in suburbs, these are the voters she needs, and these are the voters that seem to be most motivated by this.
We had some more history this week with Donald Trump seeming to invite the Russians to get into the presidential campaign to try to find Hillary Clinton's emails and to make them public. Some Democrats called that treason. Some Republicans called it wild overreaction. Karl, where are you?
Donald Trump's statement inviting the Russians to release the 30,000 missing emails from her private server was a sign that sarcasm does not travel well on television. He would have been better off making going a different direction on that besides calling on the Russians. He's now in a little bit of a quagmire. He ought to get out of it by saying very clearly that what he was doing was making a joke, but saying that, putting the issue back into the dialogue by saying it is a question of whether or not she's being honest and trustworthy with the American people. If he were smart, he'd play off your interview today and use her words to indict her. She said, that's not what I heard Director Comey say. Well, and the rest of America heard what Director Comey said, not what she thinks he said. And then she said, I relied on and had every reason to rely on the judgment of the professionals with whom I worked. Who is she blaming for having done the server? Who's the lawyer who authorized her? Who's the person who told her to set it up? Who are the professionals whose judgment allowed her to rely on these emails?
Interrupt you for a moment here and say you've moved brilliantly away from the topic that the interviewer, Mr. Chris Wallace,
thank you. I appreciate
because the idea that an American politician would invite a foreign government to become involved in our politics, Karl, you know that's wrong. You know that invites traitorism. The word traitor comes to mind.
No. If you had listened closely, you would have heard me say that he shouldn't have done it, and he shouldn't have done it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you're very clear.
Just like John Kerry should not have accused
30 seconds.
of getting Al-Qaeda involved.
Just don't pay any attention to them, because you wrote a column about this today. What do you make of Trump's seeming affinity for Vladimir Putin?
Last December, he was asked about the reports and the evidence that Mr. Putin kills journalists and political opponents. He said, our country does plenty of killing also, and at least Trump's a leader. He admires strength as he understands it. That's why he so semi-admires Saddam Hussein and those who conducted the massacre in Tiananmen Square.
Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday. To be continued.